Hey everyone, we're working hard to get our first 1,000 subscribers, sign up and you won't regret it. The first thing I noticed wasn't the guy's shoes by the door. It was the second toothbrush. We'd been married 3 years. You learn the little tells. The brand new hand towel folded wrong. The scent of someone else's cologne trying to hide behind lavender candle smoke. The way the air feels, recently lived in, when it shouldn't. I stood in our hallway with grocery bags cutting into my fingers, listening to the quiet like it was a confession. Her car was in the driveway. She'd texted me an hour earlier, running late. Home soon. That was normal. Everything looked normal from the outside. Our tidy little house on a street where people waved and pretended they didn't notice each other's problems. I set the bags down and walked in slow, not dramatic. Not angry yet. Not even sure. Just, coldly curious. The guest room door was cracked. And there it was, soft, rhythmic, the sound of life continuing without you. A laugh I didn't recognize. Her laugh, but stretched into something lighter, like she'd taken a weight off by putting it on me. I didn't kick the door open. I didn't shout. I didn't do any of the things movies teach you to do. I pushed it, gently. She was on the bed. Not naked, not fully dressed either, enough to make the picture permanent. The guy was pulling his shirt down like that somehow made it less real. The look on her face wasn't panic at first. It was annoyance. Like I'd walked in on her watching a show. Then her eyes found mine and the annoyance turned into calculation. How fast can I talk my way out of this? What story can I sell? What do I have to admit, and what can I keep? My throat tightened, but my voice stayed surprisingly even. I remember thinking, so this is what the bottom feels like. I didn't ask who he was. I didn't need his name. He was already a placeholder in my brain, the man she chose over the one who pays the mortgage with her. I walked out. Behind me, I heard her say my name, that pleading, stretched version that always meant she wanted something. Footsteps, quick. The bed creaked. A drawer opened. A zipper. I went to the kitchen and stared at the groceries like they were props in a play I never auditioned for. Ground beef. Pasta. A stupid dessert she liked. I'd bought it because it was Tuesday. She came in wearing a robe, hair tossed like she'd been lounging. Her face was working hard to look wounded. I can explain, she said. I nodded once, like I was listening, like she deserved space to perform. She started with the classic, it didn't mean anything. Then, it was one time. Then, she'd been lonely. Then, we'd been distant. She stacked excuses like sandbags, hoping one of them would stop the flood. I asked one question. How long? Her eyes flicked away. Not to the floor. Not in shame. Toward the hallway. Toward the guest room. Toward the part of the house she'd turned into a lie. Long enough. I took my phone out and walked to the thermostat panel, because my hands needed something to do. I opened our doorbell camera app. I scrolled. Not because I wanted proof, but because my brain needed a task that wasn't fall apart. There he was, arriving earlier that afternoon like he belonged here. Laughing with her on the porch. She touched his arm the way she used to touch mine when she was trying to be cute. And then, as I kept scrolling back through days, something worse happened. He'd been here before. Not every day. Not often enough to be obvious. But enough. She watched my face. Her eyes narrowed in a defensive kind of fear. Don't do that, she said. Don't obsess. Obsess. Like betrayal was a hobby I'd picked up. I turned the screen so she could see his face. She didn't even flinch. She just sighed, irritated that evidence existed. That's when something in me hardened. I walked to our bedroom and pulled out a duffel bag. I didn't pack everything. I grabbed essentials, work clothes, documents, my laptop. I took our marriage certificate out of the drawer like it was a receipt I could return. She followed me, saying my name again and again, louder each time, trying to drown out the reality with volume. You can't just leave, she snapped. It wasn't a request. It wasn't sadness. It was entitlement. I paused at the bedroom doorway and looked at her the way you look at someone you realize you never truly knew. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm exiting. Her expression shifted, quick. She tried one last move, crying. Real tears, maybe. Practice tears, definitely. She reached for my arm and I stepped back. Then she said it. It was just a mistake. I laughed once. A short, ugly sound. Because mistakes are putting salt in coffee. Mistakes are missing an exit on the highway. Mistakes don't have toothbrushes. I walked out and drove to my older sister's apartment across town. She didn't ask for details. She saw my face and just opened the door wider. That night, after my sister went to sleep, I sat on her couch and did the thing people tell you not to do. I called my mom. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted one person to tell me I wasn't crazy. Maybe I wanted the world to still make sense somewhere. My mom answered on the second ring, cheerful, like this was a normal Wednesday. I told her. Not with drama. Not with sobbing. Just facts. Silence. Then a sigh. And then my mother, my own mother, said, "Well, these things happen. Don't throw your whole life away over a mistake." I thought I misheard. "What? She's your wife," my mom said, like that settled it. "People slip up. You know how hard marriage is. If you leave, you'll look like the one who gave up." My stomach turned. I tried again, slower, like she was a child. "Mom." I walked in on her. "In our house." My mom's voice sharpened. "So what, you want to punish her forever? Are you perfect? You think you've never hurt her?" The conversation kept getting worse, like someone was turning a dial. Then my mom asked the question that made my hands go numb. "Did you do something to push her to it?" I stared at the wall in my sister's living room, a framed photo of my niece smiling in a pumpkin patch, and realized I was having two losses in one night. My wife. And the version of my mother I'd spent my life believing in. I ended the call quickly. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just said, "I need space," and hung up. 2 minutes later, my mom texted, "Be a man. Fix your marriage. Don't embarrass us." Us. Like this was about family image. Like I was a public relations problem. I slept maybe an hour. The rest of the night I listened to my thoughts circle the same drain. How did she do it? How did my mom defend it? Who else knew? In the morning, my wife texted me a long paragraph full of apologies, promises, and accusations disguised as vulnerability. My mom texted again, telling me to come home and stop being dramatic. I didn't answer either. Instead, I drove back to my house while she was at work. Not for revenge. Not yet. For clarity. I walked through the rooms like they belonged to someone else. I opened drawers. Looked where people hide things when they think they're clever. In the laundry basket under towels. In the spare closet behind board games we never played. And in the guest room nightstand, behind a stack of old magazines, I found a small envelope. Inside were printed screenshots. Messages. Not from him. From my mom. And my wife. The timestamps went back months. My hands shook as I read the first line my mom had sent her. "If you need to vent about him, call me. I'll handle it." I sat on the edge of that guest bed, the same one I'd caught them on, and I understood something that made my chest feel hollow. This wasn't my mom reacting badly in the moment. This had been happening. For a long time. And I was the last person to know. I stared at my mother's words until the letters blurred, and the next message loaded, one that made it clear my mom didn't just take her side. She helped her choose it. I took photos of everything. Not because I was planning something sinister. Because when you realize reality can be rewritten by the people closest to you, you start collecting proof like oxygen. The messages weren't flirty. They weren't romantic. They were worse. They were strategic. My mom wasn't talking to my wife like a shocked parent. She was talking to her like a teammate. Like a coach. "He'll calm down. Don't admit anything in writing. Tell him he's been distant. If he tells anyone, remind him it'll make him look unstable." Unstable. That word punched harder than the cheating. I scrolled, and a pattern emerged. Every time my wife complained that I'd been cold or busy, my mom fed it. Every time my wife hinted she missed feeling wanted, my mom validated her like she was the victim. Then I found the line that made my mouth go dry. "If you're going to do it, don't bring him back here. That's disrespectful. At least have standards." Standards. I stood up and walked out of the room before I threw up. In my car, I called my sister and asked if I could stay longer. She said yes immediately, no questions. Then she asked the obvious one anyway. "Did she try to contact you?" "Yeah," I said. "And Mom did too." My sister went quiet for a beat. "So she's doing that thing." "What thing?" "The thing where she decides what reality is for everyone else," my sister said. "And if you don't play along, you're the problem." I felt a grim kind of relief. Like I'd just been handed a map of a maze I'd been lost in for years. That evening, I met with a lawyer. Not because I was eager to divorce. Because I needed to stop being naive. The lawyer was calm, professional, not emotionally invested, exactly what I needed. He asked what I wanted. "I want out," I said. "And I don't want to get destroyed for it." He nodded like he'd heard that sentence 1,000 times. We talked timelines, finances, the house. My wife's name was on the deed. My savings account wasn't as private as I'd thought. The lawyer advised me to keep communication minimal, preferably written, and to avoid getting pulled into anything that could be framed as harassment or intimidation. "Does she have family support?" he asked. I let out a short breath. "She has my mom." He raised his eyebrows like that explained everything. On my way out, my phone buzzed. A call from my mom. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail anyway. Her voice was sharp with that familiar mixture of disappointment and control. She said my wife had called her, crying, that she was scared, and that I needed to stop punishing her. I listened to the whole thing, then saved it. Because at this point, my life had become a folder. That night, my sister put a mug of coffee in front of me and said, "Tell me everything." So I did. When I got to the part about the messages, her face changed. Not surprised. Just confirmed. "She's been doing this since we were kids," my sister said quietly. "If you weren't grateful enough, if you weren't obedient enough, she'd find someone else to side with. She likes leverage." I wanted to defend my mom. The reflex was automatic. But I couldn't. Not anymore. The next day, my wife showed up at my sister's apartment. I wasn't home. My sister called me while she stood outside, and I could hear my wife's voice in the background, pleading, then angry, then pleading again. "She says she just wants to talk," my sister said. "Don't open the door," I replied. My wife must have heard my name through the phone because she started shouting it like it was a weapon. My sister didn't budge. She told her to leave. An hour later, my mom called my sister. My sister didn't answer. Then the messages started. From cousins I barely spoke to. From an aunt who always posted inspirational quotes but never checked on anyone when it mattered. From family friends who suddenly had opinions on my marriage. I read one text twice because I couldn't believe it. "Your mom says you walked in and got violent. You need help." Violent. That word again, now spread like gasoline. I called my mom immediately. This time, she picked up. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I just asked, "Why are you telling people I got violent?" She made a little sound, half sigh, half annoyance, like I was inconveniencing her. "I didn't say violent," she said. "I said you were angry." "Which you were. They're saying I hit her." "I didn't say that," my mom snapped. "But you have to understand how it looks when a man storms out and refuses to speak to his wife. People assume. Then correct it." Silence. Then, softly, like a blade, "Maybe if you had just stayed and handled it like an adult, we wouldn't be here." I felt something inside me click into place. I realized my mother wasn't confused. She was choosing the version of events that benefited her. The version where she was the wise, forgiving parent. The version where I was the stubborn son who needed guidance. The version where my wife was fragile and redeemable and everyone could move on without changing anything. And if that meant painting me as dangerous? So be it. I ended the call. Again. My lawyer sent a separation notice that afternoon. My wife responded within minutes, calm, polished, like she'd switched into courtroom mode. She said she was shocked and heartbroken. She said she wanted counseling. She said she didn't want to ruin my reputation. That last line felt like a threat hidden in a hug. 2 days later, I got the first real wow moment. The one that stopped being emotional and started being operational. A package arrived at my old address. My neighbor, an older guy who liked me and still waved, texted me and said it looked important. He brought it over to my sister's place. It was addressed to me. Inside was a new credit card. Not one I applied for. And a letter welcoming me to a line of credit I never requested. My name. My social. My old address. Someone had opened it. My hands went icy. I checked my credit report. There were inquiries I didn't recognize. A store card. A personal loan application. Another credit line. All recent. All after I left. I sat there staring at the screen, heart thudding, while my sister watched me like she already knew the answer. "Who has your social?" she asked. I didn't want to say it. But there was only one person who kept my childhood documents, who always insisted she handled important paperwork. My mom. And the person who had access to my home office files, where my tax return sat in a folder I never thought I had to hide from my wife. My wife. I called my lawyer and told him what I'd found. He went very quiet. Then he said, "Freeze your credit. Today. And don't confront them without documentation." That night, my phone buzzed again. A message from my mom. "Your wife is not doing well. She fainted today. You're going to regret this if something happens." It was the first mention of what would become the hospital part of the story. At the time, I still thought it was guilt. Or stress. Or a performance. I didn't know yet that the hospital was going to become their biggest weapon. And my biggest opening. I froze my credit, filed a report, and as I was locking down my life piece by piece, my mom sent one more text, 2 words that made my blood run cold. "Come now." I didn't go. I know how that sounds. Cold. Heartless. Like I'd already turned into the villain they were painting. But I've watched my mom use emergencies like rope my entire life. A sudden illness to pull everyone back into line. A dramatic call to reset the power dynamic. If you show up, she wins. If you don't, she tells the story for you. So I stayed put. And within an hour, my aunt called, voice trembling with rehearsed concern, telling me my wife was in the hospital and my mother was devastated and I needed to do the right thing. I asked one question. What happened? The answer was vague. Always vague when the goal is guilt, not facts. She collapsed, my aunt said. She's so stressed. She hasn't been eating. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I did something I'm not proud of, but I'm glad I did. I called the hospital. Not to pry into private medical information, because legally, they weren't going to tell me anything specific. I called to confirm she was actually there. The receptionist confirmed a patient by her name had been admitted. That was enough. I sat at my sister's kitchen table, staring at the wall again, fighting the same war inside my chest. Part of me still cared. I'd loved her. I'd built a life with her. I didn't want her hurt. But another part of me, the part that had read my mother's coaching texts and seen my credit report, recognized a pattern. The moment the consequences arrived, they'd found a new tool. The tool was a hospital bed. That night, my mom sent a photo. My wife in a hospital gown, pale, eyes closed, a hand bandaged with an 4-line. The caption, "This is on you." I stared at it until my vision blurred. Then I saved it into the folder. Because every manipulation was also evidence. The next day, my wife texted me directly for the first time since the lawyer's letter. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She wrote, "I'm scared. I want to fix things. Please come." My mom followed with, "If she dies, you'll live with it forever." I set my phone down and walked outside into the cold morning air like I could breathe my way back into sanity. My sister came out after me. "You're not responsible for her choices," she said. "I know," I replied. But my voice sounded like I didn't. That afternoon, my lawyer called. He'd done something I hadn't asked him to do yet. He'd pulled public records related to the loan application that hit my report. He couldn't see everything, but he could see enough. The application included an employer contact. Not mine. A number tied to a small business across town. A place I'd never worked. But the name listed as verification? My mother's maiden name. I felt my face go numb. My lawyer's voice was clipped now. Businesslike. "This is identity fraud territory," he said. "Potentially. And if your wife participated, it matters in the divorce." I swallowed hard. "How do we prove it?" "You don't prove it by arguing," he said. "You prove it by paper." Paper. I thought of that envelope. The printed screenshots. My mom's coaching. The pieces were starting to look less like a messy family drama and more like something planned. That's when my sister said something that made me sit down on the porch steps. "You know what I think?" she asked. "I think she didn't collapse from stress." "What do you mean?" My sister hesitated, then shrugged like she hated even thinking it. "She's playing the one card she knows you have a weakness for. Guilt." I wanted to argue. I wanted to believe my wife wasn't capable of using a hospital as a prop. But then my phone buzzed again. A text from a number I didn't recognize. It was one sentence. "Stop making her do this." No name. But I knew who wrote like that. My mom. Then, another message came in, this time from my wife, longer, more frantic. "I told her not to text you like that. I'm sorry. I just want us to talk. We can go back to normal. I can change. Back to normal." Normal was her lying in my bed. Normal was my mother advising her to hide evidence. I sat there for a long time and made a decision that felt brutal but clear. If they were going to use the hospital to control me, I was going to make the hospital the place they lost control instead. So I went. Not alone. Not emotional. Not with flowers. With my sister beside me, and my phone recording audio in my pocket for my own memory, because I didn't trust myself to recall things accurately through the adrenaline. We walked into the hospital and found her room. My mom was there, of course. Standing like a saint at a bedside, hand over heart, eyes red in a way that looked practiced. My wife looked small in the bed. Pale. Tired. Real enough that a part of me softened despite everything. My mom saw me and her face lit up with triumph. "He came. The rope worked." She stepped toward me and grabbed my hand. "Thank God," she whispered. "She needs you. This is your chance to fix it." I gently pulled my hand back. I looked at my wife. "What happened?" My wife glanced at my mom, then back at me. She started to speak, but my mom cut in, fast, protective. "She's been under so much stress," my mom said. "You leaving broke her." I nodded slowly. Then I did the thing they weren't expecting. I took out my phone, opened the folder, and turned the screen toward my wife. A screenshot of my mom's messages. The coaching. The line about, "Don't admit anything in writing." My wife's eyes widened. Her mouth opened slightly. She looked genuinely shocked. My mom's face went rigid. "What is that?" my mom snapped. "It's you," I said quietly. My wife's lips parted as she read. I watched her expression shift, confusion, then panic, then something like anger. I scrolled to another message. Another. Months of it. My wife's breathing got faster. My mom stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was about to scold me. Put that away. This is not the time. Oh, it's the perfect time, I said. Because nurses are around. Witnesses are around. The hospital is full of people trained to notice conflict. And then my wife said something I didn't see coming. She whispered, "You printed these?" I blinked. I found them. Her eyes snapped to my mom. "You printed them?" My mom's face flashed, a fraction of a second, pure fury. Then she smoothed it into concern. "I don't know what you're talking about," my mom said. My wife's hands clenched the blanket. "You said you deleted everything." My heart stopped. Deleted everything. That meant there were more messages I didn't see. My mom's voice rose. "Stop it. You're sick, and he's twisting things." But the nurse stepped in at that moment, drawn by the volume. Calm, professional, watching all of us carefully. My mom took a breath, softened her tone, and turned saintly again. And in that split second, I realized the hospital ending wasn't just emotional leverage. It was also a place where my mom couldn't fully control the narrative. Not with staff watching. Not with my sister standing beside me. Not with my wife, weak, scared, and suddenly realizing she'd been used too. Because here was the twist starting to reveal itself. My wife didn't look like someone protecting my mom. She looked like someone realizing my mom had been running her life. And maybe, running mine. My wife's eyes filled with tears, not at me, but at my mother, right as a doctor walked in, glanced at the tension in the room, and asked one simple question that made everything collapse. "Is this your mother-in-law, or your legal guardian?" Time slowed on that question. My wife stared at the doctor like he'd spoken another language. My mom's face tightened so fast it was almost comical, like watching someone slam a door inside their own head. My sister shifted beside me. "What did he just say?" she murmured. The doctor looked at the chart in his hand and then at my wife. He wasn't trying to stir drama. He was doing his job. "I'm just clarifying," he said. "The intake paperwork lists her as your emergency contact and guardian for medical decision-making." Guardian. My wife swallowed. "That's not? I'm married." My mom's voice cut in, sharp. "It's a misunderstanding." She was overwhelmed. The doctor frowned. "It's signed." He handed the clipboard toward my wife. She stared at the signature line, and her face changed. Because it was her name. But the handwriting didn't look like hers. I watched her hands tremble as she lifted the paper closer, like moving it would make reality shift. Then she looked at my mom again, eyes wide, searching. "You had me sign things," she whispered. "When I was dizzy. You said it was insurance." My mother's jaw clenched. "Don't start with this now." My wife's breathing went ragged. "Did you?" My mom leaned in close, too close, like she could physically push the truth back down. "You're confused. You're sick." I felt my stomach drop. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore. This was about control. Paper. Signatures. Access. My lawyer's word echoed, paper. My sister stepped forward. Why would she need a guardian? The doctor looked uncomfortable now. Like he'd walked into a family explosion by accident. Again, I'm not making assumptions. But if there's any dispute about consent or who can make decisions, we need clarity. My wife's voice shook. "I didn't put her as guardian." My mom snapped, "Because you can't handle anything on your own. I was helping you." Helping. The same word she used when she handled my paperwork as a kid. The same tone she used on the phone telling me not to embarrass us. I stared at my mother and realized the cheating was just the surface layer. My wife turned to me, and her eyes were full in a way I hadn't seen since before all of this, raw, scared, not performing. "I didn't know," she said. "I swear, I didn't know she was doing things." I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to forgive anything. But I listened. My mom scoffed. "Oh please. Don't act innocent." My wife flinched like she'd been hit. And that's when the last pieces clicked. The identity fraud inquiries. My mother's maiden name on the application. The way my mom had coached my wife on what to say, what not to write. My mom wasn't just protecting my wife. She was using her. Maybe she always had. I took a breath and said, quietly, "Did you use my information?" My mom's eyes flashed. "How dare you?" I didn't move. "Did you open accounts in my name?" My mom laughed, an ugly, dismissive sound. "You're spiraling." This is why she needed support. This is why you can't be trusted to lead a family. My sister stepped in fast. "Answer the question." My wife's eyes snapped between us. "What accounts?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the credit report. The inquiries. The new card. My wife's mouth fell open. "I didn't do that." My mom said, "He's lying." My wife stared at the screen longer, and something hardened in her expression. Because she knew me. Not perfectly, obviously. But enough to know I wasn't the type to fake a credit report for drama. Then she whispered, "You told me you needed his social for the mortgage refinance." My mom's face went still. Dead still. That silence said more than any confession. My wife's eyes filled again, but now they weren't soft. They were furious. "You used him," she said to my mom. "You used me." My mom's voice rose. "After everything I've done for you." "No," my wife said, louder now. "You've been doing this to me. You've been telling me what to feel, what to say, who's the problem. You told me he was controlling. You told me he was cold because he didn't worship you." Her voice cracked. "You made me think you were the only one on my side." The doctor stepped back, signaling to a nurse, and within seconds the nurse was between us like a calm barrier. My mom tried to recover, tried to slide back into her saint costume. "This stress is why she collapsed," my mom said, eyes glistening on command. "He's doing this. He's upsetting her." My wife looked at the nurse and said, "I want her out." The nurse blinked. "Ma'am?" "My mother-in-law," my wife said, voice trembling but firm. "I want her out of my room." My mom's face twisted. "You can't." "Yes," the nurse said, gentle but final. "We can." My mom turned to me then, desperate, furious, wounded, all at once. "This is your fault," she hissed, low enough that the nurse didn't hear. "You always ruin things when you don't get your way." And I finally saw her clearly. Not as my mom. As a person who needed to win more than she needed to love. The nurse escorted her out. The door clicked shut behind her, and the room felt 10 degrees quieter. My wife stared at the ceiling for a moment like she couldn't handle eye contact. Then she looked at me. "I want to fix things," she said, voice small. "Not like before. I mean, I'll sign whatever. I'll tell the truth. I'll say what happened. I cut her off with a shake of my head. "I'm not fixing this," I said. Her face crumpled. "Please. I'm not punishing you," I said, steady. "I'm choosing myself." I turned to my sister. She nodded, like she'd been waiting for me to say it out loud. Then I looked back at my wife one last time. "I'll do one thing," I said. "I won't let her use you to hurt me anymore. That means you tell the truth, about the accounts, about the messages, about all of it." She swallowed. "I will. And after that," I said, "we're done." That part hurt more than I expected. Not because she deserved another chance. Because endings hurt even when they're right. Over the next week, everything moved fast. My lawyer filed a fraud report with the documentation I'd collected. My credit freeze stopped new damage. The bank flagged the applications. A police report was filed, not dramatic, not vengeful. Just facts. My wife gave a statement that included my mother's role. She admitted the affair, admitted my mom had been guiding her, admitted she'd been pressured to sign paperwork she didn't understand. Was she still responsible? Absolutely. But the wow truth was this. My mom hadn't just taken her side. She had engineered the whole power structure around my marriage, quietly, patiently, until my wife felt more loyal to her than to me. And then, when the consequences arrived, my mom tried to use sickness and guilt to reset the board. It didn't work. A month later, the divorce was finalized faster than most. Infidelity didn't magically erase everything, but the fraud angle changed the tone. My wife didn't fight for the house. She didn't ask for much at all. My mom, meanwhile, called me from a number I didn't recognize after I blocked hers again and again. Her voice was softer now. "I just want to talk. I want to fix things." I almost laughed. Because those were my wife's words too. Fix things. Meaning, put the old system back where they were comfortable. I didn't give it to her. I said, "You don't get access to my life anymore." Then I hung up and changed my number. The satisfying part isn't that my mom got arrested or that my wife begged on her knees. Real life isn't always that clean. The satisfying part is simpler. It's justice you can actually earn. I rebuilt my boundaries like walls. And for the first time in my life, my mother's voice didn't get to be the narrator.